I walked into my own company as an intern carrying coffee for people who had no idea I was the one who built everything they were standing on. They saw a quiet kid in a cheap shirt, someone easy to ignore, someone easy to push around. What they didn't realize was I wasn't there to learn from them. I was there to find out which one of them had been stealing from me. 3 weeks earlier, I was sitting in a private meeting reviewing internal reports when something didn't make sense. Revenue was dropping, expenses were rising, but every department report looked clean, too clean. The numbers were polished, balanced, perfect, in a way real businesses never are. I built that company from nothing. I knew every system, every process, every weakness, and I knew someone inside was hiding something big. My board wanted auditors. Legal wanted a formal investigation, but I refused. The moment people know they're being watched, they change. They delete things, they coordinate stories, they become careful. I didn't want careful, I wanted truth. So I made myself invisible. I created an intern profile, removed my executive access from visible systems, and walked into my own company as the lowest person in the room. On my first day, no one greeted me. The receptionist didn't even look up properly before pointing me toward the marketing floor. When I walked in, my manager, Mark Ellison, barely glanced at me. "Intern?" he said. I nodded. He pointed at a stack of folders. "Sort those, and don't touch anything important." That was it. No introduction, no guidance. The team heard it. A few people smiled. One guy whispered, "Fresh meat." Another said, "Let's see how long he lasts." I kept my head down and started working. Within hours, I wasn't an intern. I was a tool. Coffee runs, printing, fixing files, carrying boxes, cleaning up other people's mistakes. Jessica from finance dropped receipts on my desk and said, "Enter these, try not to mess it up." Todd from operations added, "Interns are cheaper than software." Brian, the analyst, said, "Don't ask questions, just type." So I typed, but I also watched. Every receipt, every number, every pattern. And by the end of day one, I saw something they thought I wouldn't. The same vendor names kept appearing, vague descriptions, large amounts, approved by the same person, Mark. Day two, the disrespect got worse. Mark sent me for coffee, then threw it away and said it was wrong. It wasn't. Someone took my chair. No one admitted it. I stood working for nearly an hour. Only one person noticed. Emily. Quiet, careful. She pointed me to a spare chair when no one was looking. That told me everything I needed to know. There was fear in that office. Not natural pressure. Controlled fear. Later that day, Brian handed me a large spreadsheet and told me to fix it in under an hour. It should have taken 3. I finished it in 50 minutes. Instead of being impressed, he opened the file, broke one formula, and sent it to Mark. Minutes later, Mark called me out in front of everyone. "What is this?" he said loudly, showing the error. People turned. Some smirked. Brian stayed quiet. I knew exactly what happened. I could have exposed him immediately, but I didn't. I lowered my head and said I'd fix it. That was the moment I confirmed it wasn't just one person. It was a system. That night, I stayed late on purpose. Around 7 p.m., Mark, Jessica, Todd, and Brian gathered in his office. The blinds were half closed, but I didn't need to see. I only needed to hear. Jessica said, "The vendor trail still shows the old ID." Todd said, "I'll adjust the delivery records." Brian added, "What about the intern?" Then Mark laughed. "Then we give him something to be responsible for." That sentence changed everything. I wasn't just being used, I was being prepared. The next day, Mark called me in with a different tone, suddenly calm, almost friendly. "You been doing okay?" he said. Then he handed me a file. "Help with this report." It was for one of our biggest clients. An intern should never be near it. I knew immediately. This was the setup. I opened the file. The numbers were wrong, not random errors, controlled manipulation. I looked at him. He leaned closer and said quietly, "No one checks interns. Just update the numbers." I nodded and took the file. But I didn't fix it. I copied everything, saved every version, pulled metadata, logged timestamps. Then I did something intentional. I made a small, harmless edit, something easy to track. Then I waited. 2 hours later, the file changed again. Mark had edited it. He removed a vendor entry, adjusted totals, and finalized the report. Now I had what I needed, direct manipulation tied to him. By the end of the week, the office had fully accepted the story about me. I was incompetent, slow, replaceable. People stopped hiding it. They spoke openly, blamed me casually, used me constantly. Only Emily stayed quiet. One evening, she approached me and whispered, "You should leave." I asked why. She said, "They're setting you up. I've seen it before." Then she gave me a name. Kevin. That night, I checked internal records. Kevin Morris, former analyst, flagged irregular vendor payments. 2 weeks later, blamed for errors. 1 week after that, gone. No investigation, no defense, just removed. Same pattern, same method. I wasn't the first, I was the next. At that point, I stopped observing. I started planning. I needed them to act first. I needed them to expose themselves publicly. So I played my role perfectly. I made small mistakes, acted unsure, looked overwhelmed. Mark grew more confident. The team became more aggressive, exactly what I needed. Then came the final setup. Mark handed me a USB and said, "Prepare the client report for Monday." Jessica added, "Make sure it's clean." Todd said, "Don't mess it up." Brian smiled. Seriously. I took the USB and said nothing. That weekend, I opened it on a secure system. Inside was the final report, and hidden in the metadata, Kevin's name. They reused his file structure. Same pattern, same trap. Only this time they added my access credentials, so I built my own version, not fake. Real data, real logs, real history. Then I contacted the board quietly. "Attend Monday's meeting. Don't announce yourselves." They agreed. Monday morning, the room was full. Client executives, my team, Mark in full control. The presentation started smoothly, clean slides, confident delivery. Then the client CFO asked a question about vendor allocation. Mark didn't hesitate. He pointed at me. "Daniel prepared that section." The room turned. Brian added, "We had concerns." Jessica sighed. Todd shook his head. Perfect performance. Then Mark said, "If there's an issue, it's on him." Then he looked at me and said, "Step out." I didn't move. He repeated it. I stood up slowly, walked to the front, and said, "Before I go, I think we should look at the original file." Mark said no immediately. Too fast. That was all the room needed to feel something shift. I plugged in my laptop. He stepped forward. "Stop." I looked at him and asked, "Why?" Silence. The screen lit up. Original report, Kevin's version, then version history, edits from Brian, approvals from Jessica, adjustments from Todd, final manipulation from Mark, then emails, instructions, timestamps, everything. The room went silent. Mark tried to interrupt. He doesn't understand what he's showing. I removed my intern badge and placed it on the table. I'm not an intern. The door opened. Board members walked in. Legal. HR. The client looked confused. My team looked frozen. "My name is Daniel," I said calmly. "I'm the founder and CEO of this company." No one spoke. Then I continued. "And for the past 3 weeks, I've been watching exactly how this team operates." Mark's face changed completely. I turned to the screen. This is not a mistake. This is a system. Vendor fraud, internal manipulation, coordinated cover-up. Then I turned to each of them. "Mark, Jessica, Todd, Brian, you didn't just steal, you built a structure to hide it. And when someone noticed, you destroyed them." I paused. Kevin was the first. Then I added quietly, "I was supposed to be the second." No one denied it, because they couldn't. I turned to HR. "Terminate Mark immediately, begin legal review." Then to finance. "Suspend Jessica pending investigation." Then to operations. "Audit all deliveries under Todd." Then to analytics. "Review all reports touched by Brian." Then I looked at the rest of the room. And everyone who knew and stayed silent, "We're going to talk." No anger, No shouting, just consequence. Emily was crying, not from fear, from relief. I looked at her and said, "You're coming with me. New role, executive team." The meeting ended without applause, without noise, just silence. Mark was escorted out, quietly. The same man who humiliated others walked past them without a word. A week later, Kevin came back, not as a victim, as someone who had been right all along.
And as for me,
I went back to my office.
the real one, sat down, looked at the building I created, and realized something simple.
You don't find the truth from the top. You find it when people think you don't matter. Because that's when they stop pretending.
And that's when they show you exactly who they are.